We're gonna have to do this.
Nice.
Well, Michael, it is super nice to meet you face to digital face, and we're glad you took some time to talk to us and get to know you a little bit better. So, for
Happy to
those,
do it.
yeah, I for those of you who are watching this that don't know me, I'm Adam Loomis, and I live in wonderful Ohio, and I'm privileged to work with the Kitchen Terminal on their marketing efforts and their website and all that fun stuff. So, that's who I am. If you're wondering who just hijacked this social media platform and this YouTube channel. But Michael, it's super cool to meet you. I guess we'll just start. Just tell me a little bit about your background, where you're from, who you are, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I grew up in Buffalo. We've been out here on the central coast of California for about going on 12 years now. We live in a little beach town called Los Osos. And I've got a background as a writer. My whole working career was as a writer. And then about 8 years ago, I was diagnosed with celiac disease.
Hmm.
And so long story short, I'd always been a sort of obsessive baker, and then took a couple of years off after my celiac diagnosis because I figured, what's the point? That's all going to be terrible. But then I realized it doesn't have to be terrible. I started baking gluten-free stuff,
Yeah.
and I started my business, Salty Bagel, about going on 3 years ago now, and I bake out of Kitchen Terminal part of the time, and it's been going great.
Wow. That's so really the diagnosis kind of led you towards this idea to start a business, or how'd that work?
Well, never in a million years would I have baked anything gluten-free by choice before, because
Yeah.
gluten-free stuff has a reputation for being terrible, and most of the time that reputation's pretty well deserved. Most of it's awful.
Right.
Uh, and I'm a purist with enough things that the idea of jumping into that was never really there. And so the diagnosis, though, forces you to make certain accommodations. And then after I was diagnosed, my daughter was diagnosed about 5 years ago.
Okay.
She's 10 years old now. And so I really got back in the kitchen then because there were just a lot of things that we missed. And so for a little bit, I had been toying with the idea of opening a pizza place that I was going to call Grumpy Pizza, and not having any experience doing that or working in the industry, it seemed a little too daunting. Then I started making bagels, and pretty much right away I knew that I was onto something.
Yeah. So you had that aha moment kind of when you started. And I think there's a lot of people that are struggling with that sensitivity
Yeah,
um, and that problem. I mean, a lot of people, even for health benefits, have kind of cut it out of their
yeah,
diet. Not necessarily people who just have to eat that way medically, I'm thinking.
yeah. I mean, they're realizing too that more and more of the different autoimmune disorders are gluten modulated.
Mm.
My celiac doctor was telling me that people who are diagnosed with psoriasis, they now recommend getting tested for celiac as well. Type 1 diabetes, Hashimoto's, they're all sort of interrelated. They're all sort of on the continuum there.
Yeah. Wow. So walk me through a little bit. You have this idea. Obviously, this is something that's very personal to you that you're dealing
Yeah.
with. You have this idea to create this product. What were the steps that you took? Like, when did you know that this could be something that you could, turn into a business?
I had a sense pretty much right away because they came out pretty good right from the drop, and I was sort of at a loss at that time. We were just coming out of the pandemic, so my kids were back in school.
Mhm.
My dad had died a few months earlier in June. I started making bagels in October, and so when my kids went back to school, I just was sort of had suddenly all this time on my hands, and I was at a loss.
Yeah.
And so when I'm in those circumstances, it's when I turn to baking, just processing things with my hands, the motions and the steps. It sort of takes my head has to be in that rather
Hmm.
than wherever else, it would normally take me. And so it was that sort of combination of things. I had lost my job at the beginning of the pandemic, and so all those factors sort of came together at once, and it was the perfect time for it. If I was ever going to do something like this, that was the moment.
Yeah, kind of had to step into how was it pretty scary to like launch out? Anytime you start something new, you can have that, fear moment. Like, are people going to accept this? Or are people going to,
It
want to buy this from me? I
it
guess.
was it was, but I
Yeah.
took it. I did it sort of step by step. So at first I would just do, pre-announced drops. I would say I'm gonna be posting up in Atascadero on Tuesday, so get your orders in, and I would do it like that, and then it gradually evolved into what it is now, where I'm at farmers markets and I offer delivery through a local company called Harvestly,
Nice.
and going step by step, it took some of the fear out of it, and seeing. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. It's not my natural state of being to believe that, when somebody tells me I'm doing, something I make is good, I'm usually a little bit skeptical.
Right.
Uh, just that's just how I'm wired. And so over the course of a few years now, seeing the response that people have had, I've come to accept that these are actually really good, and it's made it a little bit easier for me to grow and evolve, and it becomes a little bit less scary. Still
Right.
terrifying, most
Yeah,
days, but
absolutely. How did you decide or land on like the products that you knew? Because obviously you have probably a million ideas of things that you could make or different variations. How did you kind of land on a menu, I guess?
I wing it, and
Yeah.
I think that's sort of what makes my product unique. Is I have a lot of different bagels that you won't find anywhere else. I do one that's Honeycrisp apple and gorgonzola.
Mm.
I do, some of the cheddar and onion, but then I do feta and garlic.
Mhm.
Uh, I've been doing vegan flatbreads. Some of the ones I do are heirloom tomato and basil. I do another one that's shaved rainbow carrots that are on a lemon tahini sauce that I make.
Okay.
So it's been my business is small enough, and the people are loyal. Who buy from me are loyal enough that it affords me the opportunity to try these new things. I think
It's kind of cool.
the next one I'm toying around with are chipotles in adobo sauce with maybe some Mexican crema or queso blanco or something like that on there.
Absolutely. So do you have mainstay menu items or do you always just kind of keep it fresh?
Yeah, I've got about in terms of the bagels, I probably have 9 or 10 regulars, and then some rotate in and out. The flatbreads, I've got 3 or 4 different ones that I rotate between, and then I've got a couple cookies that I make, and I make blueberry muffins and banana bread. Those are fairly stable.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's your goal? Like, what's your plan this year, do you think? Like, do you have any ideas as far as goals or aspirations you're trying to do with the business or anything you want to accomplish in particular?
Yeah, at some point, I'd like to open a brick and mortar place that would be bagels by day, pizza by night,
Okay.
all gluten free. Because even in a place like Central Coast of California, where you would expect to find a lot of different gluten free options, there's really not much, and it's like that most places. And since we naturally have uh, a lot of people coming to visit the area from
Mhm.
visiting, especially like the Paso Robles area for the wine industry and things like that. It seems like a natural extension to try to develop this area into being a gluten-free food destination as well.
Yeah, there's not a lot of and I'm from Ohio, obviously, and I don't know of any type of business like yours in our area. And I'm sure there's so many people that would totally be down and totally need
Yeah.
that type of service in their life, that type of business in their life for sure.
Well, that's the thing. Once you're diagnosed with something like celiac, you go through a mourning period almost because there are all these foods that you think you're just never going to have again, or at
Right.
least you're never going to have decent versions of them again. So it took me, like I said, it took me 2 years to get back into the kitchen after my diagnosis because I didn't think there was any point. But then I missed the first thing I tried to recreate was a pizza from this place in Buffalo, Bocce Club Pizza, that I loved and missed. And I got pretty close. Excuse me, and I realized this is doable. These things are doable. You can make these things and have them be delicious. And it just sort of snowballed from there. Um, yeah.
That's awesome, though. That's awesome. So, what would you say to somebody? Because if you're starting a food service a product is there's a lot of steps you have to take. There's a lot of considerations from not only the business side, but also the food safety side and all that.
For
What
sure.
was kind of like your journey in learning all that and making sure that you were dotting the I's, crossing the T's, I guess.
It's just a lot of research. It's a lot of research along the way. I uh, reached out to a lot of the local food industry businesses that I respect and admire. Hidden Kitchen up in Cayucas and Cambria was one of them. Bread Bike was in San Luis Obispo was another one. And pretty universally, everybody was willing to speak with me and give me really solid advice and help walk me through things. And that was a major help. I can think of advice that I got, specific pieces of advice that I got from all these different people. And that was really a great first step. It sort of gave me the courage to try these things and to get at it. But then after that, I mean, there's a lot of health department stuff to deal with, and all of it's important. All of it has to be done. And it's just a process of learning as you go.
Yeah. I think it's important to encourage people not to skip steps.
Yeah, no,
Don't take shortcuts and go slow and ask a lot of questions.
ask a lot of questions. Because the time you gain by skipping a step, you're later on going to lose that time and more when you have to catch up and go back and implement new processes and procedures and things.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask. I ask questions all the time still, even in my work, because if there's something I don't know, I'm not going to act like I do. I
Yeah,
want to learn. I want to use that moment as a learning moment and not to be afraid to be vulnerable and open yourself up and just really take advice from people who've been down the road before.
for sure. I'm a much better baker than I am a business person, and recognizing that was sort of important.
Yeah. Do you feel that's true for a lot of food entrepreneurs that they're really great at what they're great at, and then they're really terrified of the unknowns in the business world? And I think a lot of gifted food entrepreneurs have gone out of business unnecessarily, not because they didn't have a great product,
Yeah.
but they just skipped steps and didn't really ask the right questions and didn't really get the help that they needed to keep them solid throughout the whole process and give them the ability to scale.
Well, there's the whole left brain, right brain thing, and a lot of people who are drawn to these sorts of businesses are super passionate, super talented, and very creative minded. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to make those connections with the other side of your brain.
Right.
And that's very much the case for me, but it's a question of perseverance and a lot of good luck too. I've a lot of good luck in the sense that I'm filling a niche that doesn't really exist in this form in this area. If you go to LA or New York or some of the other bigger cities, you might be able to find something like what I'm doing. But certainly around here, there's nothing. And in most places, there isn't anything like it.
Right. You already stand out just by your product, which
Right,
is
exactly.
which I think is good too for people that are interested in maybe starting a food service business, that to make sure that your product has a differential involved with it as well. So
Yeah,
you blend into all the noise.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. I think about a lot of these businesses that are selling sourdough and things like that. And it's really challenging because there are a lot of talented sourdough bakers out there. And so finding something to differentiate yourself, even if it's just strong branding and strong marketing, is super important. Some of the best money I ever spent was the 300 or 400 bucks I paid for a really great logo from a friend of mine when I started out, because it's something that you can build the business around and it's instantly recognizable and it makes it kind of fun. None of this should seem like a punishment to customers.
Right. That's a good statement, because how did you come up with the name and like the brand idea?
Well, the name I came up with because I had mentioned that I'd been thinking about a pizza place that I was going to call Grumpy Pizza.
Yeah.
And when I sort of moved on from that mentally, I wanted something along the same lines. And so I was driving one day and I just came up with Salty Bagel. Um, we're sort of cousins to one another, I guess.
Right.
And then I have a background in marketing writing and things like that.
Okay.
And so it sort of all flowed from there.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I checked out your website. It looks really good. And I think it's cool
Thank you.
just to have that persona, that differential stick out. I mean, your product already does, but I did good job And I think it's so important for people to also consider is like, how do you look to people who don't know
Yeah,
and support you already?
yeah.
Like complete strangers. How do you stand out? How does your brand stand out from everybody else?
People are looking to bond
Yeah.
almost with the things that they emotionally invest in. They're trying to not just make a connection, but there's a kind of a thrill, especially for example, like a farmer's market business, when you sort of stumble across it and none of your friends know about it, you kind of feel cool and in the know a little bit. And then when the product's great and you can recommend it to other people, from a business owner standpoint, then you're off to the races.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about how you got connected to the kitchen terminal and how that process worked.
That was a huge stroke of good luck. Through Cal Poly, the local university here, they have a small business development center that's, I guess, hooked into the Small Business Administration and the federal government. And they periodically get grants and things like that, in addition to having experts on staff and things like HR and bookkeeping that you can rely on. So they received a grant looking specifically developed for people with a cottage food permit looking to make the move into a commercial kitchen space, which was, I mean, that's exactly me. And
Yeah,
so I jumped on that with 2 feet, and it paid for initially about half of my time that I wound up using every month at Kitchen Terminal. And that was just a revelation. I mean, going from janky home ovens and
yeah,
things like that to real professional equipment, immediately the difference in product was evident, and in processes and procedures and things like that. It was,
right.
it was a huge difference.
That's awesome. Plus, it gives you not only like the idea of what's possible, what you could do,
Yeah,
opens a lot more opportunities in your mind to see what you could create and how your
that's right.
business can really, really scale.
Well, and plus, the practical aspect of it too is that obviously my products are 100% gluten-free, and there is no dedicated gluten-free commercial space around here, apart from my kitchen, at least none that are available for rent. And
Yeah,
so one of the things that really attracts me to the kitchen terminal was how rigorously clean everything was, and the procedures that they had in place, and the rules that we all had to follow, the cleaning procedures and all that, um, along with some steps that I implement on my own. Those things make it possible to do what I'm doing in a way that keeps me, my daughter, my customers, everybody safe.
that's right. And it's something that you can be proud of
For
to know
sure.
everything that you're doing is completely top shelf, next
Yeah.
level.
Yeah. And in fact, I periodically do pizza nights out of Kitchen Terminal, and I will bring customers back to show them where we're doing our prep and the kitchen space, because I want them to be bought in and to know all those things, that it's clean and safe and rigorous. I
Yeah.
love walking people through there because it's really a cool space, especially if you've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people don't know those places even exist, and
No.
to be able to show them what's possible. I think too, a lot of people have great ideas for a product in the food service. But they don't know how to get it from their kitchen to the customer and to that next step to where you're at currently.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult. And that grant really bridged a gap that I don't know that on my own I would have been able to bridge, just because, it provided some funding and spurred me to take that step.
Mm.
It was key. And uh, yeah, that was a huge stroke of good luck for me.
And if people have an idea, they need to start asking questions
Mhm.
and start really understanding what steps they need to take because it's difficult, but it's not impossible. And
It's not impossible.
it's only difficult because you have to go through it. It's just like working out. You
Yeah.
can get in shape, but here's the process it's going to take. It's going to take some steps towards it.
Those are steps I've never completed.
I think we're all working towards it. Okay,
Yeah,
just
that's right.
all different ways. But it can be done. And I think a lot of people are sitting on these great ideas and just letting it continue in their head and not really putting it out and just, giving it a shot.
It's like I was saying, it's hard to accept sometimes that the idea that you have is a really good one and it's worth pursuing, because there's danger in that in terms of uh, risk opening yourself up to criticism and to what people think. Like that's a terrifying thing, and it's in any facet of your life. And so it's even more so with something that you're passionate about, something that comes from your hands in your head. Uh, it's daunting and it's scary, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't or can't be done.
Right. It's very doable. And
Yeah.
if you have a great idea, I'm sure the world needs it. Like there's a reason you have that idea, that desire to share like with you. I mean, this is something that you needed. And then to take it to the next place and to be able to be an answer for somebody else who's having the same issues that you did physically.
Yeah, it takes some obsession and some passion to be able to get something good enough where it can be turned loose into the world like that. And if you have that sort of passion and you've gotten something that far, then it's worth pursuing. You know,
Absolutely.
that's life, the universe, whatever, sort of telling you that and pushing you in that direction.
Absolutely. So if you're watching this and you have an idea, you need to start doing it. Don't
Yeah.
put it off any longer. And there's the cool thing for you, you've got a community of support that if
Yes.
it's something that you don't know how to directly respond to or answer, you have people in your network that can help you.
Just froze up. Um, that's one of the other great things about Kitchen Terminal is that there's this community of other people who are in the same boat or very similar boats adjacent to mine, uh, who are who I can talk to and who I can compare notes with. And it's nice to, for example, realize, if I have a slow week at the market, that it's not necessarily just me, that everybody, that it's been a slow week for everybody. There's comfort in that. And just in general, I've always found that hanging out and dealing with people who are passionate about something, anything, whatever it is
Mhm.
always worth doing. And so, surrounding myself in a creative environment that enables that is just awesome.
It's amazing. And then it just kind of lets you know what the possibilities are.
For
And,
sure.
and that
Because
you're not unique to your struggle. Everybody else is going through the same exact thing.
that's right. Yeah, you're seeing other people doing it. And so it makes you realize that, like you said, it's doable.
Awesome.
It's all doable.
So what's next for you this year? What's your next step? Do you have any products getting ready to come out that you're excited about?
Well, I add products sort of bit by bit as they as they occur to me.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a master plan for that. But that's one of the things that I really like about my business and the way I do it. And I think it's one of the things that my customers like. Um, and so I'm really just trying to build everything to the point now where it's financially stable enough that I can consider signing a lease, opening something up,
Yep.
and sort of striking out like that. I don't want to take on a lot of debt as I do this, and I want to make sure because I'm not a great business person, I want to make sure everything's viable before I do something dumb.
But we're all at risk of that, I mean,
For
especially.
sure. Yeah.
But I think it's cool that you don't have to go super fast. You can go very
No.
strategic and how you kind of take those next steps and grow in your brand.
And if you have the luxury of going slowly, there's so much sense in that because that's how you learn all the stuff, and that's how you manage to avoid some of the pitfalls that if you're just rushing headlong into things, you're gonna trip over.
Right. I agree. So where can people find like where can people find you to buy your product?
Right now, I'm in a couple different markets in the San Luis Obispo area. I'm in the downtown Thursday night market, which is an incredible thing if you've never been there. It's, thousands and thousands and thousands of people every week. They shut down, I don't know, 5 or 6 blocks of downtown. And that's a great one. Fridays, I'm up in Cambria at their farmers market. Saturdays, I'm in Morro Bay at their market, which is another fun one. And then I offer delivery through a local company called Harvestly
Okay.
uh, that delivers for a lot of the farmers market vendors in the area.
That's awesome.
So bit by bit, I add markets. I'd like to add another couple as I grow.
Absolutely. So where can people find you online? How do they like can they connect to you on social media?
Instagram is I can't believe is a thing for me, but Instagram is a big thing for me. My handle's Salty Bagel Slow.
Okay.
And my website is saltybagelslow.com. SLO, not
That's
slow as.
awesome. Well, I'm excited to kind of watch, your journey from afar and seeing how you progress.
Thank you.
We'll continue to enjoy your creations. And yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I appreciate that, and I hope you can make it out here to see
You know
everything.
what? I'm going to. I've met too many great people making too many great things where my stomach is just telling me I need to come.
And this area is so much fun to visit anyway. I mean, it's
Right.
really the most beautiful place that I know.
Well, how far away are you from LA?
We're exactly halfway between LA and San Francisco,
Okay. Yeah.
so about 200-ish miles.
Okay.
So, depending on traffic and all that, it takes about 3 to 4 hours to drive down there.
Yeah. I've heard traffic out there's a little crazy. I've been out before, but yeah.
That's the nice thing about our area is that it's the same weather and beaches, but without the traffic.
Yeah, you can eat gluten-free on the wonderful beaches right next to your house. I love it.
How about that? How
Who's
about
doing
that?
that? Ain't nobody doing
No,
that.
no,
That's
no.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time to encourage everybody. Just tell your story and encourage people that may or may not be thinking about, launching out, or people that are doing what you're doing right now just to keep going.
I'm happy to do it, and it's kind of amazing still to me the twists and turns that life takes when you're open to it and willing to take them.
Yeah, yeah, thank God. But it's funny, I look back at my life and everything I've been through, I wouldn't trade it in for anything just because it's brought me to where I am today.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
good, bad stuff, all of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking time and check out his website, follow him on Instagram, and get connected to what he's doing, and then visit him and buy his stuff.
I
I
think
think
that's a great plan. That's a solid plan.
you agree with that.
Yeah, I would sign off on that.
We'll have all the handles and stuff in our description below. But thank you again, Michael. Appreciate your time.
All right, happy to do it.
All right.
All right, bye.
Let's see here.